I'm going to open up a new document. This time I'm going to do a letter size, and I'm going to be working in a landscape orientation. And I'm going to name my file Pathfinder, since we're going to be working with those tools. So let me open up my Pathfinder tool, or rather panel. If you don't see your Pathfinder panel, go to Window and Pathfinder. In the Pathfinder panel, we have Shape Modes and Pathfinder. Shape Modes deals with combining shapes or deleting shapes from each other. And Pathfinder is similar, but it's more of creating or dividing shapes. So I'm going to give an example of each one. I'll be using my tools, my toolbar, and I double click in the fill color, and I'm going to choose a color that I'm going to be working with. And I'm going to take the color off my stroke. I don't want any strokes for these shapes. And before I continue, I want to talk about the color panel and the swatch panel. Swatches. So I picked up this color and I want to save it to my swatches. The swatches is essentially a library of colors. There's a preset of colors that come with Illustrator, but I want to make my own swatches or colors and save them. So I have this purple selected, and there's two ways to save a color. In my swatch panel, I could either hit the plus swatch, and then I could go ahead and click OK, and now I have a new swatch, that color purple. So that's one way to save your swatch. The second way is to simply click in the fill tool and drag it into the swatches, and now you have a new swatch there. So those are two different ways to save swatches. And then in the color panel, you can make adjustments by using the CMYK bars here, and you could shift them to the C is for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So you can make slight adjustments depending if you want to add a little bit of a little more blue, or if you want to add a little more magenta to your color. So you can make adjustments to your colors using the color bar. Alright, so now we have colors picked out. So I'm going to draw a square, and I'm going to use Alt and Shift to draw a square. Shift is to constrain proportions for this square. Without Shift, it's going to be more of a rectangle, or you kind of have to eyeball it to get a square. And when you draw a shape, you draw it out from your cursor But if you want to center it, you can hold Alt on a PC and Option on a Mac. It's Option on the Mac. And that's going to draw your shape directly from the center of where you're holding your mouse or your cursor. And if you hold Shift, that's going to constrain it. So I'm holding Alt and Shift to make the square. And then I'm going to copy this square by holding Alt on a PC and Option on a Mac. And then you'll see the two double arrows, the black and white arrow once you're holding that. And then you could make a copy of that. So I'm going to draw 4 pairs of squares to show you what each of these shapes, what the functions of each shape mode is. So I'm holding Alt on a PC, Option on a Mac to make copies. And I'm going to change the color of the top squares. That way we see what's happening as we work with the Pathfinder panel. So the first one is Unite. It unites shapes together. So now that becomes one shape. And I could change the color of that shape. That's a good tool if you want to combine, or if you're drawing kind of unique shapes. Now if I add a circle here, and unite these two shapes, now I have a unique shape here. And notice that the shape that's on top, the object that's on top, that's the color that's going to be used as a result once we unite the shapes. Okay, so that's unite. The second one is minus. So it's going to minus the shape that I have on top and use it as a sort of a cookie cutter to cut a shape through the purple rectangle. And I could do that with a circle or ellipse. I'm going to cut a circle through the square here. Alright, so that's minus. And now there's a hole in the center of that square. And I don't have to go ahead and redraw the whole thing. I kind of did it in 2 easy steps. The next one is intersect. So intersect, it cuts everything except whatever two shapes are intersecting each other. So I'm going to use a circle as an example. I'm using the eyedropper to copy this color. So now if I select both of these objects and hit intersect, I get the shape that's in the center. Now what if the purple circle is on top. Let's see if it makes a different object here. So it just keeps whatever intersects with those circles. Okay, so that's intersect. The next one is exclude. So let's see what this looks like. So anything that's intersecting, it's sort of the opposite of this one. Anything that's intersecting is going to be deleted. So now that's one object, and I could change the color on this object as one. Alright, let me try it with the circle now. So now I'm going to keep or delete this shape there. So now I have exclude. So that's exclude. And now let's try these in the bottom here. So I'm running out of space here. I want to add more canvas to my document. I want to add more space. So I'm going to use my Artboard tool. If I click on the Artboard tool, it's going to highlight my artboard. And from here, I could either make my artboard smaller or add on to my artboard. Now that's going to change the original size of the document. And you can see the size in here. Or, yeah. So notice how these numbers change. So I'm going to add more canvas space here. I could also add another artboard if you're designing some kind of flyer or a poster, double-sided poster, and you want to have the design in the same document, same Illustrator file. I could go ahead and copy this artboard. So now I have two artboards. And I'm using the same Alt on a PC and Option on a Mac to copy my artboard. And now I have a new artboard, and I could I could add work to both of these documents, or rather artboard. It's one document. So Control Z to go back, Command Z on a Mac, Control Z on a PC. Okay, so let's keep going here with the Pathfinder. Let me add a little more to my document here. Okay, so I'm going to draw more ellipses. Okay, so the first one is divide. So I'm going to select both objects and I'm going to click on divide. And it seems like nothing happened. It's all grouped, but if I choose my direct selection tool, it divided each section separately, and I could add color to each of these sections here. So now you could start getting into unique designs or logos, potential logos here. Okay, let's go on to the next one. I'm going to make this object smaller by selecting it, holding shift, and then go into one of these corners. If you want to move it around, just click to select the object and then you could move it around. If you select the rotate tool, you could rotate your object. Okay, let's go to the next. Let me draw 2 ellipses here. Okay, so the next option is trim. So use the top object to trim a piece off of the bottom object. So if you wanted to draw a moon like crest, instead of drawing or trying to figure out how to draw this shape, you could just draw 2 circles real quickly and use the trim option to make a crest. Alright, let's go to the next one. Let me draw 2 ellipses here. The next option is merge. Now some of these tools here are similar to each other. For example, merge is similar to unite, except that unite, it combines both colors. In merge, it simply merges the objects, but you still get that cutout here. Merge and trim are almost similar. So this one is trim and merge. Trim and merge are almost similar. Alright, the next one I'll leave that there. I'm going to add more space here to my artboard. The next option is crop. So let me select both options here and then go to crop. Let's see if it makes a difference if we have the purple circle on top. So I'm going to right click, arrange, bring to front. Now remember, I'm in one layer this entire time. One layer. But if I click on this double arrow, I have several sub layers. Each object that I draw has its own sub layer. So you could turn some of these off and on. Alright. So let's try crop. So crop is similar to minus. This is a good tool if you want to draw maybe like leaves, if you want to draw multiple leaves. Alt to copy. Or we're drawing some sort of logo for a company. Now you have multiple leaves here. Alright, so let's go to the next one. The next one is outline. So outline is going to do exactly what it sounds like. It's going to make an outline of these shapes. And if I use my stroke panel, Windows stroke, now I have an outline of these shapes. Okay, last one is minus back. That's similar to minus front, is minus back. It's going to be the opposite of minus front. So if you have an object selected and you want to swap the stroke color and add it as a fill color, you're going to click on these double arrows here, and that's going to swap your colors. And for this example, I'm going to use a star. Make sure I change the color. I'm going to use the scale tool to make this object smaller. Once you click on the scale tool, if you click enter, you'll have options here to keep it uniform. I want it to make it about 80% smaller. and I want to make sure it fits inside that circle, so maybe 70% smaller. I'll go with 60. Now remember, the last one is minus back. Let's compare it with minus front. Move this out of the way. I'm going to bring that circle to the front, arrange, bring front. So now select both objects. So now I have a circle with a star shape in the center. And compared it to minus front. Yeah, it's also similar, almost the same thing. Except where it's using, what shape it's using to make, to cut off. Or what shape it's using to cut from as a reference point. Alright, so that's it. Pretty much covered the Pathfinder shape modes and the Pathfinder tool. A few more things before we go. So we have this, let's say it's a logo, but there's a lot going on here. A way to clean this up is by selecting it, go to Object, and then we're going to hit on Expand. So that's sort of going to clean things up. And now if I want to change the color of these shapes, I'm going to unite it before I do so. And I could add a gradient to it. So I'm going to click on a gradient tool, click inside of that shape, double click, and now I could replace these two colors using the gradient panel. And I could change the direction of where my gradient is going. So I want my gradient to be vertical, so I'm going to click and drag up. Double click on the white circle, and that's going to be this white color in the bottom. And I'm going to replace the black color. And there's two ways to modify the gradient. I could either use the shift, the little shifter here, the slider, using the diamond shape, or I could use it here, having the gradient tool on. I could also make that an ellipse, or excuse me, a circular gradient. I could rotate it, or make it larger. And there you go. With a few easy steps, we have a nice looking logo or shape. It's almost a flower. Okay, so I'll stop here.